Hi, we're live. We're back live. And actually, um, I just want to check something and make sure that we really are live. And then you can see this, and also you can chat and ask your questions, make your comments at any point. I have my eye on the chat, so bring it on. Okay, so welcome back to the free Bite-Sized Masterclass series for people who manage people in teams. And before we go on to today's topic, which is the power of community for high performance, and we're going to see why that is important, I wanted to remind you some of the stuff that we did here all of these days, all of these weeks, starting with week 1 when we discussed preparation and we went through emotional intelligence and mindsetting and body language, power poses and breathing and diction exercises. And then we discussed the actual performance bit, which is managing your time, managing your team, and managing change. And actually, we went and discussed even more managing change and crisis. So if you weren't here for all of these sessions, and by the way, yesterday, we went to self-care strategies for humans. So if you weren't here or if you missed a session, make sure that you click on the description, on the link in the description of this video to make sure that you get all of these resources. So you're getting all the replays and links that I recommend, books that I recommend, everything in one place. So just click on the link. All right. And we said that today we are going to talk about the power of community for high performance. And before we start again, I would love to hear your thoughts and your perspectives on um, why community is important to you. And I don't know why my PowerPoint is moving by itself. I swear it has a life of its own. I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything. Okay. But it takes me to the next section of this, which is my question to you. Who's taking care of you and how? Because first of all, in all of this change, in all of this crisis, the first person who's taking care of you should be you. And what we will also be discussing today is seeing how the community that you operate in is important and why and how it can help you. So I want to hear at any point if you have any thoughts about how you think communities help high performance. And again, we talk about the full high performance cycle. So we talk about preparation, performance, and recovery in one piece. That is the full cycle of high performance. There's no other way around it. So in as I studied this so many times in good old fashion, I love to define things before we start talking about them. And, that's, I guess, my lesson of working with lawyers in international law firms for over 15 years now. Um, so, yeah, define things before you talk about them. Sorry. And I found this definition of high performance: the ability to deliver over a prolonged period of time meaningful, measurable, and financially sustainable results for the people or causes the organization is in existence to serve. So we're looking at high performance from a serving standpoint, from a long-term standpoint, from the perspective of having meaningful, measurable, and financially sustainable results, right? Either for the people or for the organization, for the causes that the organization supports and serves. So that talks already about the power of community, because that already talks about culture and why that's important. And we're going to see in a minute what I mean by that. And then I wanted to also share with you this particular definition of communities that I found from Simon Sinek. And if you don't know him, look him up because he's amazing. He has some amazing work done in the area of teams and organizations and changing the culture in organizations. So pretty similar to what I do, if I do say so myself. So I wanted to share this quote from Simon Sinek. A community is a group of people who agree to grow together. So you see the connection between high performance communities growing together. That again, that is meaningful, that is measurable, because growth is a process that we go through, and that is long term because it is a process that we grow through, right? It doesn't happen overnight. We don't see the results immediately. It's not instant gratification. No, you have to go through this whole process of growing together. I will also share in the resources. That's why you want to make sure that you click on that link to get all the resources, because I will also be sharing one book that I recommend from Simon Sinek. He has plenty, but I love one of his books, and also one of his TED Talks. Okay, so now that we've seen the definitions of both high performance and communities, another question to you. Should you run your team at work as a community sport club or as a high performance athletic program? And now we talked about this yesterday, right? About you as a high performing athlete and how you need to take care of yourself the same way that high performing athletes take care of themselves. So that is, if you haven't watched yesterday, again, click on the link and get those resources. But here's the question to you. How are you running your team? How are you managing all that power and potential that you have on the team? So that, again, that's, by the way, if you're managing or leading a team, that's also a good question to take to your team and ask, how do you think we should run this thing? How do you think we can work together best so that we all grow together? And here's why I'm saying this. Because community and high performance, they're super related when we talk about that long term. And I'm sharing this quote from Bernard Letendre. He's the head of Wealth and Asset Management Canada. And he said, that's just the way things work in a dojo. Helping beginners is a collective responsibility of all the people who are more experienced. In fact, the more experienced the judoka, the greater the responsibility. And I'll think a little bit about what your organization or what your business does when you have new joiners on the team. Apart from the onboarding, if you have an onboarding or new joiner program that you're taking them through for the first couple of weeks, maybe as they join your organization, but what do you do to make that a sustainable help, to help them grow in the long run? And you might have already some systems in place, but what that is helping everybody with is that it creates your organization culture, which is a culture of learning. And what I mean by a culture of learning is not that you have a company or a business or an organization that asks people to go to courses and training and all of that kind of stuff, the formal kind of learning. Not just that. I mean, formal learning, yes, that is an essential part of the organizational growth. But the informal learning is also what makes the organization grow long term, because and get that and keep the knowledge of the people that work for your business or for your organization. So in a learning organization means exactly a safe space for trial and error, because that is the fundamental element. Those are actually two elements, two fundamental elements of learning: trial and error. We learn, if you think about it, we learn through trial and error all the time, right? It's how we learn to walk, right? We started to walk, and then we fought, and then we fell, and then we got up, and then we fell again, and then we got up, and at some point eventually we're able to keep our balance. Now it's the same thing with any kind of learning process, right? You're not going to see the result immediately. You need to go through the process of mastering that skill so that you can apply it without thinking. Do you think about walking when you walk now? I don't think so, because we just do it automatically. It's the same thing with any kind of learning process. That's why I'm saying, do you have a learning organization? And that allows your people to feel heard, understood, and valued. And let me tell you why this is important, because these are three basic emotional needs that we all have. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, how do we want to feel? It's all about that. That's why I'm saying it's all personal. Nothing is just business, because a lot of how we feel has a lot of impact on everything that we do. And if I feel heard and understood and valued, then I will feel motivated and engaged and included. And I will be able to contribute my best, because I know that's valued, because I know I'm not judged, I'm heard and I'm understood. So how do you support new members in your organization? And how do your senior members in the organization help the new joiners fit in and grow? And maybe grow together. And I've worked with companies and organizations that have some kind of course, tailored to their needs, some kind of mentoring and coaching programs for everybody in the organization. And mentoring is not, it doesn't work just one way, it works both ways. When you have reverse mentoring, where the more senior members of your team also learn from the more junior members of the team. And think about it, you have people who are part of the boomer generation, or even some Xers maybe, who are not tech savvy, and you pair them up with millennials or maybe even older generation Zs, and then they can learn a lot of technological stuff from the younger generation, which might help them be more productive. So think about creating a mentoring program in your organization if you don't have one. Coaching and mentoring programs, this is why they help. That's what they're here for, to help your people grow and learn from each other, and to help your organization grow with the people inside of your organization, because that builds the culture. Again, we define culture, and when we talked about last week, when we talked about managing your team, we defined culture as how we do things around here that makes us feel successful, right? I think that's Google's definition of their culture. But I think if you think about it, it can also be applied to organizations, families, countries, workplaces, right? So it's not just, it's not something general that we cannot understand, we cannot perceive. It's the way that we do things, and you see if the way that people do things around here matches the way that you also do things. And it also that builds the kind of healthy competition, because it's a kind of competition that makes us successful together, because I know I'm only going to be successful as much as my team is successful. It's like participating in a team race, and we begin the race together, and we can only win the race if we finish it together. If we don't finish it together, we're going to be disqualified. So that is the healthy competition, as opposed to I don't care about anyone else. I'm just here to win everything no matter what, all by myself. So that is the unhealthy competition, because at some point you will have a kind of imbalance. So communities and high performance, they're super related when it comes to long-term benefits for everybody, because it's focused on helping people become the best that they can be, whatever that may mean for them, right? And that is intrinsic motivation. That is the internal motivation that keeps me, that was my chair, that keeps me motivated over and over and over again. I don't need external shiny objects to keep me motivated. I will feel motivated, right? So that is essential when we talk about motivation and engagement. So I'm gonna put this up because communities, high performance, this is why they're so important together when we talk about long-term results. And I think these do ring a bell for you, right? Examples of communities that encourage high performance. One way or because people need support, because people need information, because people need encouragement, because they need a healthy sense of competition. That's where, for instance, in the fitness communities, you get all of those badges and leaderboards, and actually in online learning groups, you get the same thing, because people get to see who the leader is. They get to see where they are on their own learning journey, but they also get support when they need it. They also get encouragement from the community when they need it. And they all get the right kind of information that they need when they need it, and they help each other. You can definitely add to these. I just added a few that probably are familiar to you. Schools are communities for high performance. And I'm not talking just about the classes, but also about the groups of friends and communities that work together during the school day and outside of school hours. Work, again, communities at work, teams. These are your community, is your team. And this is why people were so hurt and they suffered a lot when the crisis hit and we couldn't go to work anymore and we couldn't go to school anymore. A lot of people were depressed and suffered from depression and anxiety, and a lot of them still do, and they feel so isolated because, hey, I don't have my morning coffee with my colleagues, with my team. I don't have the water cooler conversations. I don't have the events, the social. It's a lot of social involved in everything that we do. And that is because we cannot operate in isolation. And that brings me here. Do you know that this quote, not that, this quote that I'm sharing with you, But it's the opposite of that. So the quote, the initial quote is, "You're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with." Well, this quote, and I'm actually going to share the link to the full article with you. So get the resources in the link in the description. It says, this quote says, "You're not the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. It's way bigger than that. You're the average of all the people who surround you. So take a good look around and make sure you're in the right surroundings." Why is this important? Because, okay, communities might not affect what we do, they might not affect our actions, but they influence how we do it. And that is absolutely related to the fact that we don't operate in isolation. And let me explain this a little bit. Think about the culture that you grew up in. Because again, when we talk about communities, we can refer to culture, the culture of the organization, of the country, of the family, of the school. It can be different community, different culture. But from one country to another, you have one kind of general culture that people operate in. This is how we do things around here. That's why you get all of the habits, all of the traditions and everything. That's part of the culture, right? So think about how you operate in your country's culture and how you'd operate in another country's culture. You might be doing the same thing, like activities, the same activities, you can still be doing them. But the way you do them is going to be adapted to that country's culture. I can give you my example. So for me, for instance, I grew up in a communist culture in Romania, former communist country, Eastern European bloc. Already the difference of culture between Eastern Europe and Western Europe was quite big, because obviously in communism you couldn't do anything. There was no chance of freedom of choice, freedom of thought, freedom of movement. There was no freedom at all. We were basically prisoners in our own country. So when communism fell and we started to have some sort of democracy in Romania, it was the culture transformed. And Romania right now is still finding and refiguring and redesigning its own culture because of that. So the culture I grew up in was very clear on, these are the things that you can do. The rest is not allowed. Compared to the Western culture that says, that's what you're not allowed to do because you'll suffer the consequences if you do it, because it's illegal, it's immoral, right? But the rest you're free to do. In a communist country, you only have a few things that you are free to do, and then the rest is completely forbidden. So when we moved to Canada back in 2017, I had an idea, because working with international firms, you get to experience different kinds of cultures, right? And working in different environments and working with people in different countries. So you experience the different cultures. But then the difference between Western Europe and North America is also big, because people do things differently. And Canada is a highly diverse country. I think one of the most diverse countries, if not the most diverse country in the world. There's literally people from everywhere. So again, the way that I do things here, maybe I still do some of the things that I used to do in Europe, but I do them differently because I need to adapt to the way things are done in this country. It's the same thing when you join a new organization. You join because of your technical skills and because of everything that you can do. But you will need an adaptation time so that you do them as you adapt to the culture of that particular organization. That is why some people are simply not happy with organizations that they join, because they don't click culture wise. They don't do things the same way. They don't think about their behavior is going to be different. They're going to act differently because they will have different kinds of values and different kinds of cultural systems. That's why people are unhappy sometimes, and then they leave the organization because it's not a fit cultural wise. So again, this is why communities are important, because we're social animals. We need the encouragement, we need the support, we need the communication, we need the social part of our lives so that we're able to connect and feel that we are having a meaningful contribution. And this is where I say, okay, we talked about high performance that's related to you as a high performing athlete. And yes, you can look at yourself and you can take care of yourself as if you were this high performing athlete, and you can get all of the technical knowledge, the soft skills, the management and leadership skills, the self-care, the continuous improvement and masterminding, networking, everything that you know and everything that you do is going to be is going to depend on where you can do them, on the culture that you operate in. How you apply everything is going to depend on that. And this is crucial because this is where I see a lot of people and organizations who are not happy with the return on investment and the return on expectations after people attend one training course or another. Because you have managers who send their people over to a training course. And then the expectation, that's why we talk about return on expectation, because it's the financial investment, but it's also the expectation that that person comes back from the training, from the leadership training, and now they're a leader. And they can lead because they learned how to lead in that training session. And it doesn't matter if it's a 1 day or 2 day or 1 week training session, the expectation is going to be the same. And let me tell you, it doesn't work this way, right? Because if that person goes to that training session, they understand what needs to happen and what's possible, what behaviors they can adopt to lead better. And then they come back in the same environment that they left from. And that is the same environment where they couldn't, because they didn't have the knowledge, they couldn't be a great leader, but also not just that. How are they supported in that same environment to apply all those skills that they learned during that training session? How is that environment going to help them master those skills? Because one training session, training is not, we're not cars that we can send to a car shop and then they get fixed and then they work just like that. No, it's a whole process. So we learn about skills that we need to master. We learn about behaviors that we can adopt. We learn about stuff that we can do. But the problem is that we cannot expect to get the result right then, because it's a long journey from initiation, from just finding out about what's possible, all the way to mastering that skill. Just like walking, right? It's a full process. And then I experience the benefit of that. And then I see the result of that after I went through the whole process. Like the going to the gym. I don't go to the gym once a year and then I expect I'm fit. No, I want to be in shape. I want to build my muscles. Yeah, I go to the gym regularly. Skills are like muscles. They need regular training and maintaining so that they grow and then they serve us when we need them most. And we don't even have to think about that because then we're masters of those skills. So that's why I'm saying how you apply this is influenced by the culture that you operate in and how that culture supports you to do that. So how are you supporting people when they learn about something new to also apply it? This is why training only works if it's supported by coaching in helping people apply that on the job and see what works for them. We don't have recipes that work for everybody. Everybody has their own leadership style, their own management style, their own superpowers in which they can influence, they can impact, and they can make their best contribution on everybody around them. Okay, so why I'm saying this is because if you were a high-performing athlete, you would have your team of coaches, trainers, physiotherapists, therapists, nutritionists, you name them. So you can be your own team of that as a professional, right? But you also need to play by the rules of the game. And they are connected to the culture. So think about it this way. You're a tennis player. You're training. You have the coaches, the trainers, physiotherapists, therapists, nutritionists, everybody helping you develop the skills and the stamina and the energy and everything and the knowledge, the technical knowledge, everything, the mindset, so that you play tennis and you win. You win Roland Garros, you win Wimbledon, you win the US Open, you need all the Grand Slams, right? Because you train for it, you prepare for it, and that's what everything does. That's how you're supported to do that. But you train to play tennis. Now imagine that you train and prepare to play tennis, and then you get sent to a football game, play football. It's the same thing with anything that we do, right? That's why I'm saying, yes, you might have the skills, you might have the knowledge, you might have the preparation, but you also need to play by the rules of the game. Because if I apply all of the tennis player skills in a football match, I don't think that's going to help me too much. And I don't think I'm going to be able to win. Not the first time around, maybe not the second time around. And I need to play. Tennis is an individual sport. Football is a team sport. So I need it's a different kind of culture, right? And different set of rules of the game, right? So when you talk about culture, think about the rules of the game. Again, that's why I'm saying people sometimes they're just unhappy, not because they're not trained, because they don't know what to do, because they don't have the experience in the role and so on. No, but because of the way they need to operate in, which does not fit their own culture. So what you're doing with your team, are you aligned? Is your team aligned? Are your team members aligned to your company culture, to your business culture? Do they understand what that culture is? Do they agree what that culture is? Because the culture is built by people, not the other way around. Culture doesn't build people, people build a culture. So you can create it together. You need to know what kind of culture you want and move towards it together. So yes, communities influence the full cycle of high performance. And I showed this to you yesterday, and I'm showing this again now because now we close the full circle and we understand why it's important, first of all, to think of ourselves as high athletes and how everything falls into place, how preparation, performance, recovery from the three standpoints, emotional, physical, and mental, do help, and why communities influence that, because it's all related also to the culture. So my call to action to you is this: get support and ask for help. I mean, whatever you do, make sure that you have the support that you need. Leaders, it's no longer about leaders who feel isolated or leaders being isolated at the top. I think one of the reasons why leaders used to feel at the top, again, it was the culture of the company. which might have been very hierarchical, and we're slowly moving away from that. And my take on leadership is that leadership is not about hierarchy, it's about legacy. And legacy means, how do I influence the way things work around here so that everybody benefits? What do I leave behind that benefits others when I'm not there? That's a kind of legacy. I don't have to die to leave the legacy, right? But it's what do people benefit from after I've been there? What can they use from what I've done or what I contributed with? That's the kind of leadership that I'm talking about, and that's the kind of leadership that we're moving towards. So leaders, whenever they were feeling isolated, one of the reasons was that they were isolating themselves because that was the culture. And what I'm saying is, you don't have to. Because when you ask for help, that's when you can also offer help fully, because you understand how it feels to be in a position where you need to ask for help. So no more isolation. Find your tribe, find people, find the group, find the place, the environment where you feel heard without being judged, where you feel heard and understood and accepted. Network regularly and understand that it's important to share. Yes, it's important to be able to share successes. It's also important to be able to share challenges, because that's how you get feedback. That's how you get different perspectives and opinions and different kinds of solutions and creative solutions. So brainstorm and get peer support. And definitely work out your skills muscles like you work out your body muscles. So that means regularly, right? Like going to the gym. Okay. That's it for today. So make sure you click on the link to get all of the resources for today, the session handout, some links for you, and some book recommendations as well. And if you want more of what we're doing here these days with the masterclass, join the Lead for Legacy League. This is why one of the reasons I created it was to really build also this community for managers, for team managers, for small business owners, for people who lead teams and need to get the technical skills and understand what techniques they can use to develop their management and leadership skills, but also get the assessments and some strategies that they can use and take back to their team. And also the regular group coaching, discussions, brainstorming, and networking with peers, because that is essential. The community, and that's a global online program. So you get people with different kind of perspectives, different kinds of cultures, joining this Lead for Legacy League, and they discuss from different standpoints. And this, with what's happening now and we've experienced with the crisis that we've experienced, we need this kind of flexible mindset as well, so that we can come up with creative solutions and creative approaches, so that we're ready to whatever any kind of external circumstances might offer. So if you want to talk to me about the league, I'm happy to chat, DM me, and we'll take it from there. You have 3 options that are super flexible for you to be able to join. This is for you as the boots on the ground, hands-on manager, mid to senior managers who really need the skills and the support so that they grow, so that you become a great leader, right? You get the same resources, preparation, and knowledge that CEOs get after they're there. You can get them before you get there to take you there. You get them when you need them, not 5 years after. Okay, so that was it for today. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about the importance of higher purpose in team engagement and motivation. And we are going to close it full circle. If you get a chance, make sure that you watch the Managing Your Team and Managing Change videos They are in week 2. So last week we did them. Make sure you watch those before tomorrow's session if you want to join it, because that will make even more sense to you. So you're going to take the best out of it. If you want to talk to me about the Lead for Legacy League, absolutely drop me a message or an email. Check my website, personalskillscoach.com. Drop me an email and I'm happy to talk to you about it. Until then, until tomorrow, that is, have a great rest of your day or evening and see you around. Bye.